It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of Thanksgiving weekend 2003, technically Friday, November 28th, even though most of these movies would open up on Wednesday the 26th. But we have 6 movies to look at, and there's actually more films that I could look at, but these are the 6 notable ones that I remember from this particular weekend. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to them. Let's start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Disney's 3rd theme park-based movie, and that is The Haunted Mansion starring Eddie Murphy.
This is the ancestral mansion of the Gracie family. It's a real fixer-upper. With a Victorian ballroom, secret passageways, spacious grounds with room for the whole family, and a mystery that has cursed the house for over 100 years. But no one told the Evers family.
Honey, you know they have dead people in the backyard. Hey, I'd really rather stay on the ground. Can I stay on the ground, please?
Dark spirits from the grave, come forth.
Don't you make no dark spirits come out while I'm sitting there. Wait till I leave before the dark spirits come out.
The Haunted Mansion.
If that isn't Kelsey Grammer, that's a hell of a good impression. I swear that's him, but I don't know. It sounds like him, but you hear him in the trailer there, maybe. But this is the 3rd, like I said, the 3rd feature film adaptation based off of a theme park attraction from Disney World. First one being the Country Bears, with the bigger one being the Pirates of the Caribbean, which left a lot of high anticipation for this one because, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean was an unexpected hit. Everyone thought it was going to do the same thing with this movie, and not so much. I mean, it wasn't a flop by any means necessary. It did make money, but it was not a hit critically, and eventually led to a reboot that is slightly better than this one, but even then, it's not that great. But in general, I mean, there's so much potential with the storyline here that you could do, but these movies haven't really worked with the film's advantages that they could take with the storyline here. And I think this one does it worse than the 2023 one, but that's just my personal take on it. You have Eddie Murphy playing a realtor who, along with his family, becomes trapped in the Haunted Mansion. And, of course, they come across all these different characters, including Terrence Stamp as the butler, Wallace Shawn as part of Coach's Horseman. Marsha Thompson plays his wife. Jennifer Tilly plays Madame Leota in this. And there are brief flashes of promise in here. There are moments in here that I did legitimately enjoy. Like, I like the production of this movie. It looks pretty damn good. I mean, the set designs are very good. Sometimes you get a good laugh here and there from Eddie Murphy, but even then, it's not really enough for me to say that it's a good movie by any means. I'll give the 2023 version this. There were more things about that one I remember about it, mostly from the visual aspect of it and from the storytelling development. I mean, I like those characters a lot more because they're played by great actors in general. I mean, you've got, in that one you had Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito, Tiffany Haddish, Rosario Dawson, Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, and even Jared Leto was the Hatbox Ghost, was kind of cool to watch. But I mean, this year they were trying, but it just couldn't really get past those moments where you felt like there should have been so much more to it. I mean, they got the pieces here and there, but it just didn't really feel like they expanded on the story of the Haunted Mansion. At least with the 2023 version, they did things with that one. I forgot that Lakeith Stanfield was also in there too. He was one of the main guys in there, but in that movie they were at least trying, and I thought they succeeded more with expanding the story. Here it's just, hey, here's these little flashes here and there. Like, here's the Hatbox Ghost. Here's the statues that sing to you. Like, here's all the things from the ride, and they don't really do anything of value with him. Like, there's not really much of a story given there, except for one that's pretty generic overall, and it just doesn't have that element that Pirates of the Caribbean had, where they have good talent involved, to a better script involved, really, to make it work on its own. But here, it's not that they don't have the talent there. I probably should take that back. Rob Minkoff, who directed Stuart Little before this, of course he directed The Lion King. He's a good director, and this is written by David Birnbaum, who had a hit earlier in the month with Elf, which was a proof that was a much bigger success than anyone expected it to. But here, I don't know. The pieces just were there, but there's nothing there to really make this one stand out over a generic storyline here. Of all the 3 films based off the theme park attractions we've had up to this point, this is easily the weakest one of the bunch here. The Country Bears was at least a so bad it's good type of movie because of things like Christopher Walken's performance. And Pirates of the Caribbean really was something that really took a lot of people by surprise when it came out. With this, you thought that they were heading in the right direction, and the pieces just weren't there to make it a film that should work on its own. Like, even Eddie Murphy, as much as I thought he had some good moments here and there, he feels kind of wasted in this particular film. I mean, he doesn't really have a whole lot to do in this film except to just be the straight man in this crazy world that he's found himself in with his family. And, like, there's a subplot with his wife looking like somebody from the past, and it doesn't really go anywhere that you don't think it's going to go already, and it just... I don't know. The film itself just really was a major letdown. Like I said, if I had to choose between this and the 2023 version, the 2023 version would win, but just barely, though. So, not much more to say about that one. That's The Haunted Mansion. So let's go ahead and move to what I think is probably the best movie of the entire weekend, and certainly not what you think it would be. It's the 3rd Christmas classic of 2003, but this time for the adults. Billy Bob Thornton starring in Bad Santa.
The funniest comedy of the year.
I'm so glad you practicing digging in
The Bad Santa is achingly funny.
That's so good when you mentioned these lips on your wife
Astonishingly irreverent.
last night.
The man's a sexual being. It's a must-see film for anyone who loves to laugh.
Love blonde women. What about that, John?
Bad Santa. Rated R. Now play.
Who would have thought that this would be the last movie John Ritter would ever be involved in? Because unfortunately he passed away 2 months before this movie came out, and it certainly was tragic, especially someone like me who was watching 8 Simple Rules back in the day, and to find out that the father is no longer with them and they decided to continue on. It was an interesting time for that, but he's in this movie too, but we'll get to him in just a moment. This is Bad Santa, where you have Billy Bob Thornton, who plays a convicted con man who leads a miserable life. He drinks heavily and constantly embarrasses himself publicly. He only works once a year dressed as Santa, but then come Christmas Eve, he and his pint-sized helper dwarf, played by Tony Cox, stage elaborate robberies and take the department stores for what they've got. This time around, Willie gets distracted by large women, a bartender who's attracted to Santas, played by Lauren Graham from Gilmore Girls, and a kid who's convinced he's the real deal, played by Brett Kelly. However, Marcus must once again put up with Willie's heavy drinking and series of incidences that consistently shoots him in the foot. Will Willie and Marcus make it to next Christmas, or will this be the year the dynamic duo finally faces justice? And yeah, it's about as raunchy as you can get. I mean, the title Bad Santa is very much worthy of this movie, and it's friggin' awesome, man. I love this movie so much. This is directed by Terry Zwigoff, who gave us films like Crumb and Ghost World. And it's actually a production of the Coen brothers, who actually wrote the story for this, even though they were uncredited for it. But you definitely couldn't tell by the fact that they were in this, that they were involved in this, honestly. But like I said, this movie's pretty freaking amazing, man. I love this movie so much. It is so dark. It is so raunchy. This is the definition of how to make a good raunchy comedy, and a raunchy holiday comedy too, which seems like it's an impossible task to do, but man, does this movie pull it off so well. Billy Bob Thornton is just such an asshole in this movie. You can't help but love him because he's making me laugh so hard. In the beginning, when you see him in, I think in Hawaii, and he's just like, he's like completely going, he's like going insane. Like he's throwing, like he's getting behind the bar. The bartender's just like, "Hey, I thought I told you to get off of there." And he's just swearing at him, throwing stuff all over the place. Like when he wakes up in the morning from Christmas, he hears Christmas music. He's like so mad that he throws he's like throwing not only the alarm clock, but he's throwing all these bottles everywhere. Like you kind of feel like you should hate this guy, but at the same time, you kind of feel like you would be in that same pathway too, if you've been doing that job for so long. And I think as a kid, it didn't really hit me, but as an adult, I think a lot of people can relate to Billy Bob Thornton's situation in this. Like, he hates the holidays so much and has these problems, but you know what? You just got to go with it, and until you finally reach your breaking point. And this film definitely was his breaking point, but this moment in time was his breaking point. But God, Billy Bob Thornton is so funny in this movie, man. Like, he punches kids in this movie. Like, not just punches them, beats the hell out of them. And it's just like, you know, I freaking love this movie, man. This is my type of humor. Dark comedy, raunchy humor, a cast that filled with some great talents like John Ritter, like I said, Bernie Mac, another late actor in here, like I said, Brett Kelly, Lauren Graham, Lauren Tom from King of the Hill and Futurama, Tony Cox, just phenomenal cast, phenomenal writing, brilliant direction, just funny stuff, and like it's just such a great movie, man. I love it so much. Just a phenomenal film. What more can I say? I'll say this: avoid the sequel. Came out 13 years after this. Completely was a pointless sequel. Didn't have any of the same amount of raunchy humor that the first film had that made it work, and it was just a waste of time all around. Didn't even have the same people behind it, so that's already another strike against the film. But avoid Bad Santa 2. Watch Bad Santa 1, though. It's a classic film. What more can I say about it? So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Ron Howard's The Missing with Tommy Lee Jones and Cate Blanchett. So in 19th century New Mexico, you have a father played by Tommy Lee Jones who comes back home hoping to reconcile with his adult daughter, Maggie, played by Cate Blanchett. Maggie's daughter is kidnapped, forcing father and estranged daughter to work together to get her back. This is one of the many modern westerns we're getting at the time. Another one was Open Range. This one's definitely not as good as Open Range, and at times it can be a little bit too pretentious for its own good, but there are definitely some aspects to it that are very interesting, to say the least. There are things about it that I would say that are very good about it. Like, I do like the little bit of the darker edge to it. Like, it feels like a dark, grisly western, which is something that we don't usually get very often. But it features two solid performances by Tommy Lee Jones and Cate Blanchett. You also have Emma Rachel Wood in here. Aaron Eckhart's also in the film as well. And for a film like this, for people, you would think that they would get so much wrong here that the Native Americans probably would get upset about this, but no, it turns out this was well received by Native American populations who praised it for its Apache dialect, saying that was well spoken and could be understood by most Chiricahua-speaking adults. A lot of the actors had to learn to speak dialogue, and they would spend hours beforehand making sure that they got it right, and you gotta give it credit for that. And I mean, it's not that it's a badly made film, it feels like a film that's just really trying too hard to be the next Unforgiven or be the next Open Range, this great western, and it just doesn't quite make that mark. There are times when it definitely has the edges to do that, and like I said, it's not a bad movie per se. It's a very nicely put film, but it does run way too long, and it's, like I said, at times it can seem very pretentious and feel like they're just trying to get a message off of there, but it's just a fine film for what it is. Like, it's nothing too spectacular. Not a bad movie, but not a great movie either. Not one I would say you should check out. But if you want to see some Ron Howard stuff, it's not one of his worst movies he's ever made. I mean, it's a competently made film. I just wish it wasn't as long as it was, and didn't feel like it was trying to stick its own head up its own ass. But and again, that's just my opinion on that one. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie here, which is the Richard Donner directed Timeline.
Actually built a 3D fax machine.
Well, we figured out how to transmit an object to 1357.
You actually made it work?
We got documents my father's writing on it. We found his glasses. What are you trying to tell us? He faxed it back to the 14th century?
Fact is, your father's in the 14th century. You need your help is getting back.
Think of it as the ultimate field trip. So are you saying he could be stuck there forever? We got 650 years of knowledge on these guys. If we put our heads together, we should get out of here in 20 minutes.
Yes, but if it only took you 20 minutes, then we wouldn't have a movie. We wouldn't have this movie that's over almost 2 hours long. So, obviously, it's not going to take 20 minutes for you to go find the dad in here. But this is Timeline. This is directed, like I said, by Richard Donner, based off of Michael Crichton's book of the same name. And it follows a team of present-day archaeologists and historical students who are sent back in time into medieval France to rescue their professor from the middle of a battle. And you see a cast that includes Paul Walker, Francis O'Connor, Gerard Butler, Billy Connolly, David Thewlis, Anna Friel. And, I mean, there's a good concept here, just not the right execution in general here. And like I said, it's a film that pretty much follows where you think it's going to go. Like, you see these little pieces here and there that you've seen in other movies before, and it just doesn't feel like they go where they should go with it. And it just kind of feels like a ripoff of Stargate, which, that it definitely has those elements to it. Some of the overacting there, like that scene where they're all going back in time and they just have these faces where they're closing their eyes and they're holding their mouths over, like, ah! Like it's really hurting them and all that. And just like, I felt like Richard Donner was trying to tell them, no, it's got to feel like it's hurting you when you do that. It's just like, no, it just comes off as really, really stupid when it's all said and done. But like that type of stuff, like just, I don't know. Maybe that's just me thinking about that, but I don't know. The movie itself just really didn't really do it for me. The film just kind of feels like they're trying too hard to make something unique and interesting with it, and it's an ambitious film in general, and I feel like there could be a good film here, but it needed better writers in general to really make it stand out on its own, and it just doesn't quite really do that here. Plus, you got Michael Crichton working with Richard Donner, two very different, brilliant minds, and you would think that there would be a much better film involved here, but not so much here. So that's Timeline. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is William H. Macy, Maria Bello, and Alec Baldwin starring in The Cooler.
To experience
Shock.
what is it to love? The year's most improbable love story.
You are out of his life.
I don't think I can do that.
This is our time. This is you and me.
William H. Macy. You look in the mirror, you don't like what you see, look in my eyes. I am the only mirror you're ever gonna need. Maria Bello
Hey, blindsided me. I love you.
and Alec Baldwin.
Best cooler there ever was, and I need him back. He ain't never coming back. That is a dead man talking.
The Cooler.
A quick reprieve for Alec Baldwin following last week's The Cat in the Hat, a film that actually got him this one actually got him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, and it's pretty good in the movie. And you have the true story of a Greek punter, Nick Pagelis, played by William H. Macy, following a casino cooler whose mere presence at the gambling tables usually results in a streak of bad luck for the other players and people in his betting office. Then he provides lunch and light refreshments and the occasional scotch. And directed by Wayne Kramer, who would later go on to direct Running Scared with Paul Walker, a criminally underrated film of his. And the film itself is just okay. I mean, the performances, I think, really do what carry it to a level where I would say it's worth checking out. William H. Macy and Maria Bello are very good. And you see why Alec Baldwin was nominated, because it shows, hey, Alec Baldwin can act, and this is a film that shows what he can do. You also have Paul Sorvino in here, Ron Livingston, Estella Warren, probably the best thing she's ever starred in, honestly. But the film itself, it's kind of like it's trying a little too hard to be kind of the next The Gambler or Casino or The Hustler, Color of Money, that type of a film. And yeah, it's cool to see Las Vegas as it is in this movie compared to what it is now, but at the same time, it's not really enough to say that it's a film that should be considered one of the best movies of the year. But I think the acting does elevate it a little bit more to the point where I would say it's worth checking out just for the performances alone. But other than that, for a one-time watch, I'd say it's fine, but I don't think you're going to really want to watch it again after the next time around. But who knows? Maybe you might. But with that said, that's The Cooler. On to the last film we have here, and that is The Triplets of Belleville. What a great movie, man. Triplets of Belleville is directed by Sylvain Chomet, who has has a unique animation style to it. If you haven't seen the Triplets of Belleville, you have certainly seen his work when he's directed a couple of couch acts for The Simpsons, actually. Most notably the one with set in his style, where you have Homer, we have everybody like looking like they're from France in general. Like you have Homer eating snails. Great couch gag in general, but this film just really shows you what this director is capable of doing. This is his magnum opus for sure. It's a film that has very little dialogue to it, and most of the narrative is conveyed through pantomime and song. You have the story of Madame Sousa, an elderly woman who goes on a quest to rescue her grandson, Champion, a tortured French cyclist who has been kidnapped by the French mafia for gambling purposes and taken to the city of Belleville, which is an amalgam of Paris, New York City, Montreal, and Quebec City. She's accompanied by Champion's Lord and a beast hound Bruno, and joined by the Triplets of Belleville, who are music hall singers from the 1930s where she meets in the city. And it's actually got 2 nominations for the Oscars, including Best Animated Feature, as well as the song Belleville Rendezvous, which is a catchy-ass song in general. The movie itself is gorgeous to look at. It's a very unique animation style that feels very similar to other things, like you could see a little bit of Klasky Schuster in there if you watched a lot of Rugrats and the Wild Thornberrys back in the day. A little pieces of that are in there, even though this director has nothing to do with those, but it's a very unique style, and it's something that just... I remember seeing it as a little kid, not really knowing what I was going in for, but when I came out of it, watching it... Excuse me. A little burp there. But after I got done watching it, I was just like, man, this is a really, really good movie with a lot of great style, a lot of great music, a lot of great ambition to it. The fact that it's mostly done through pantomime, like, I like these type of movies. I mean, Shaun the Sheep and Wallace and Gromit, I mean, some of the best pantomime used in animation ever. This is definitely right out there. It's a film that is just so well done, brilliantly animated, well executed. I can't recommend this one enough. The Triplets of Belleville. It's a must-watch indeed. Definitely check it out. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll head into the last month of 2003, starting next week with Tom Cruise starring in the epic adventure The Last Samurai from Edward Zwick, Jessica Alba starring in Honey, and one of this week's past new releases that I'll just throw in here so we can make it a three movie episode with In America, which was a heavy Oscar contender. This is following this, but we'll take a look at those 3 films on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I'm off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.